Hi, I'm Eric Sierfos Miller, local judge. With me today is Jarrett Ritter, and we're doing a standard deck tech on mono blue. I'm excited about this.
The deck's really sweet, honestly. Um, it's really cheap. It started as a budget option for standard and quickly grew into a real threat in the meta game.
Okay, so why would you want to play this deck over other decks?
So, in a world of a lot of Jeskai and a lot of green black, your Jeskai matchup is really good because you can normally just outpace the removal spells and outpace them in card advantage. With green black, you can tune your deck to be advantaged in that matchup. Not super advantaged, but still favored. So you have good matchups there. And yeah.
All right, well, let's look at the deck list. So, we've got down here, let's start off with the Mist Cloaked Herald. Can't be blocked 1/1 for 1. Seems pretty straightforward. Siren Stormcaller, our resident $7 uncommon.
Pretty much just serves as a 1-mana counter spell for any removal spell
Okay.
or settle the wreckage.
Seems oh, it can,
Yep.
Ooh,
Anything
that
that
is
targets
good.
you or a creature you control.
oh, that's very good. Merfolk Trickster, that's actually a pretty interesting one. What does that do?
So, its most common use is to force through damage just by the ability to end step tap a creature. It also has the ability to fog a creature. Say you're up against a Nicol Bolas and you just need to fog it for a turn. You can just come in and tap it.
All right, that seems very
And
good.
It's also a good end step threat against control for when you just need to force through a creature.
That makes a lot of sense. Then we have, what is this? Warkite Marauder? What does that do?
So whenever it attacks, target creature defending player controls loses all abilities and has base power and toughness 0/1 until end of turn. So in this deck, it basically serves about the same function as Merfolk Trickster, in that you're just trying to get their creatures out of the way for your creatures. So it takes flyers out of the air for your various flyers to get through.
Seems pretty good. Then we got Big Papa Tempest Dijin.
Attention is just a big fat flyer for cheap. It's only averaging about a 4/4 or a 5/4 for a 3 mana, which is way above curve.
Yeah.
And since your mana base is 20 islands, every land pumps.
Yeah, I like this. This is my favorite bit because we're not going to talk about mana at all because it's just islands. Done. We did it. Good job. Move on. All right, so moving down the list, we've done all of our creatures. Opt, pretty standard cantrip.
Yep.
Chart a course. Now, do you want to discard ever, or are you always doing this post-combat?
You ultimately you don't want to discard. Sometimes you should need to draw more cards. So if you flood out, you can always discard an island normally.
Okay, so you optimally want to not be discarding. There's nothing
Yeah.
that cares about that.
No.
Then we have Dive Down, pretty good protection spell.
Yep. Just basically a negate against any spot removal, and it also protects against damage-based sweepers like Deafening Clarion by just boosting the toughness above 3.
Yep. Then we have Essence Scatter, Spell Pierce, and Wizard's Retort, a pretty standard counterspell package. I'm not gonna lie, I played against this deck last week, and I forgot Spell Pierce was standard legal.
Yeah. So
It's really good.
yeah, especially in a meta where everyone's just trying to play tap out control or tap out mid range, you can normally just get them when they're trying to curve out
Yep.
with a cheaper, more tempo based
Yep.
counterspell.
So before I get down to the meat and potatoes of this deck, I want to talk about this singleton copy of Sleep. Our other blue deck, we had Is It Mill featured, and it also ran a singleton Sleep.
Yeah, so Sleep is a good card in some matchups. It's pretty much a hedge against green-black, being such a big part of the meta. They really struggle with beating this card normally because it's just like 2 time walks.
Yeah.
But you don't want more than 1 in your deck because you're only on 20 lands. You can't afford to draw more than 1 4-drop in a game.
It makes sense. And then down here, Curious Obsession. Talk to me about this card.
So this is the card that really makes the deck go. It enchants a creature, give it +1/+1, and whenever it deals combat damage, you draw a card. So that's your main engine of drawing cards and outpacing the other deck's card advantage. Because your spells aren't really that powerful, but normally in Standard, as long as you have more cards than your opponent, That's all that needs to happen.
Yeah.
It also has a clause at the beginning of your end step. If you didn't attack with a creature this turn, sacrifice it. So it doesn't have to be with the enchanted creature.
It can be any creature.
You can attack with any creature, and it'll stick around. This really supplements the Mistcloaked Herald, which is mostly why it's in the deck, just to force through the card draw.
That's pretty good. Looking over at your sideboard, we have a second copy of Sleep, so just in case you need it.
Yeah, mostly for green-black.
Okay. Chemist's Insight. Good card draw?
Yep, just if you go long in the Jeskai or Esper matchup, just drawing more cards is always good. Helps prevent flooding, too.
Oh, okay. Then we have Diamond Mare. Very good card.
Yeah, very good against mono red or red white aggro. Just a good blocker. It gains life. It pretty much does everything that you would want against an aggro deck.
Yep. Sentinel Totem. We have that, a Negate, an Essence Scatter. Pretty standard sideboard cards for mono blue. Staying with this, the Disdainful Strokes right here. But then we get into some spicy stuff. What does this Entrancing Melody do?
So it's very good in the mirror match, since most of your creatures cost 2 or less, and if you take one of their creatures with a Curious Obsession on it, you get to keep the obsession with it.
Yeah.
So stealing creature in the mirror is very influential, and sometimes also stealing small creatures against red decks can really turn the tide.
So what this card does, it's 2 and X. Take any creature or any permanent
It's a creature with CMC
of X or less.
Yes.
Awesome. Then I see down here we have our third Warkite Marauder, just for that extra little push.
Yep.
And then what is this guy?
This is a Mana War that also happens to be a wizard.
Oh,
So
boy.
when it enters the battlefield, return target creature in opponent's control to its owner's hand. So it being a wizard is relevant since you have Wizard's Retort.
Yep.
It turns this from cancel to counterspell. It's also just really good as a tempo threat against big decks like Green-Black or Grixis, just bouncing a Nicol Bolas or some 5-drop threat from a Doom Whisperer, per se. Just bouncing that to get through your creatures. Just a big tempo swing normally.
That sounds pretty good. Any closing thoughts on the deck?
The deck really waxes and wanes in the meta due to what people are playing. It's very meta-focused, and the deck has to be tuned to fit a meta, specifically, especially in the sideboard slots. So if you're going to play this deck, really do some research on what you think you'll be playing against that weekend.
Yep. So, and if you're at the local, know what players play. Honestly. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming onto the show.
Absolutely.
Again, I'm Eric Zierfaus Miller.
I'm Jarrett Ritter.
And this was Deck Tech. You have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you next time.